Look at lottery winners. After 5 years, they're usually back where they started. The money was never the problem. The identity that that person has was the problem. The thing that you need to pay attention to is if you do not change who you are before the abundance arrives, before the money arrives, the money is going to conform to who you are, not the other way around. Money is like water. It settles to the level of the container. You have to make sure your container is ready for abundance. Otherwise, that money is going to leak out. That's why you need to ask yourself this: who are you when there is nothing left to fight for? Who are you when you're not in survival mode? Who are you when there is no problem to solve? Not what you will build next, not what is your next goal. Most people who come from survival cannot answer that question because survival gives them a reason to exist. And survival can get them out of the environment where they come from because it gives them purpose, it gives them direction, it gives them identity. But if you remove that survival, usually there's nothing left. So then the brain manufactures a new crisis, a new threat, a new reason to fight, because all this time it was fighting. Now that there's nothing to fight, it's going to manufacture something new to fight. And what is it going to fight? That new abundance that just entered your life. All of a sudden, you fall into a bad investment right when life is getting good. And these are not mistakes. They are a person recreating the only conditions they know how to live inside. Before you can enter abundance, you need to be able to give a name to that identity. Once the scarcity has left the building, you need to put a label to a reason for existing. That doesn't require something to be wrong, because without that, you will find a way to make something wrong every single time. Non-negotiable number 1, know who you are without the chase. Non-negotiable number 2, grieve the version of you that got here. The person who survived, when they enter abundance, that person is not a hero. They are a liability. That version of you that hoards, that version of you that spends impulsively, that version of you that does not trust anybody, that version of you will keep moving because being still will feel like danger. And you love that person because they kept you alive, because they're the reason why you are even at abundance's front door. They are valuable, but you cannot bring them to the next chapter. You have to sit with the fact that at this station of your life, for now, the hunger is over. Not as a celebration, but as a loss. Because something real is ending. That version of you that needed something to believe in. That version of you that needed nothing but to survive. That version of you is retiring. And you need to grieve that, because that was a very important character that you had to perform. And if you don't acknowledge that, they will never retire. They will operate in the background. They will operate in disguise. And they will spend your money. They will ruin your relationships, and they will cap your life to the level they were built for. Because every person has an unconscious limit, a ceiling of how good they believe they deserve. And this was set by your environment, it was set by your upbringing, by what you watched, by what happened in your life. It was set by you watching people striving to have more and seeing what happened to them. When your life reaches that ceiling, that part of you that is in survival mode will try to autocorrect, because it'll try to protect you. And most of the time, you will not be aware that you're doing it. There's something where when abundance is very close, or you just stepped into the door of abundance, something is going to say, hi man, this doesn't feel right. The ceiling will always sound reasonable on its way down. Non-negotiable number 3, stop spending to try to fit in. This is a specific behavior that I feel like we've seen time and time and again. When people get money, but the environment around them doesn't get money, slowly the person who gets money starts spending at the level that the environment around them can recognize. They end up paying for dinners, they end up buying things for the group, they change their conversations and talk about money as if they don't have it. Because when you have the money and the people around you don't have the money, it feels like you're abandoning them. So you try to close that gap because you feel bad inside. You try to close that gap and you spend that gap with reckless spending until the money is gone and you fit in again. I mean, we've seen, look at the lottery winners. That's what they do. They try to spend money to fit in until the money is gone. And that is not generosity. It might feel like it is, but it's not generosity. That is self-sabotage. And it's self-sabotage that is wearing a costume of loyalty. And real generosity doesn't come from a dark, shadowy place of pity. It comes from a place of gratitude. And when you self-sabotage like that, you are bleeding. You are bleeding out slowly and nobody usually can save you. And you're doing this, sacrificing yourself so that nobody feels like they're being left behind, but you are slowly going back to the level that you came from. But the people who love you do not need you to be at a poor level. They need you to show them what is possible. Non-negotiable number 4, automate money before you even touch it. When you're operating in the survival brain, it usually sees money as a threat. It's always looking for a way to neutralize the threat. Most of the time, the survival brain will look for something to spend money on before anything else takes this money, or it'll spend recklessly in another way. And usually that response, that impulse to spend recklessly, usually comes online before your frontal lobe is even awake. And the only way to interrupt it is to make sure that the money has moved, the money is gone before that survival brain tries to do something about it. The moment your income arrives, even more importantly, when you know that that large amount of money is coming, have a plan for it, automate it. If the money you know is coming on the 18th, by the 19th, let everything be automated so that the money can go into different buckets. The money should go to a savings account that you don't have a card for. It should go to an investment that you cannot access easily. And in order to access that money, you have to complete a lot of forms. It's a hassle. You need to put your money in there. Money loves a plan. If you do not have a plan when it comes to your money, especially if you have a survival mindset, it will find a way to leave your life. And this does not happen because you lack discipline. It's because if you're operating with a scarcity mindset, you're operating using a brain that was built to consume resources before they disappear. It just wants to survive. And it's doing this because it loves you. It's not doing this because it hates you. And sometimes it's very difficult to fight programming that is like that. So it's much easier to automate certain things so that you don't have to fight with that part of your brain. And that is the system. That is the container that you need to build. Yeah, you can build a budget, you can build a spreadsheet. Yes, those have their place, but automating, it's just easier. You have to create a system that protects your money from the version of yourself that doesn't believe that the money is going to be there tomorrow. When you think about the Medici family financed the entire Renaissance period. And they didn't do this from generosity. They did this because they understood that if you have wealth, if you have abundance, and you hold it and it does not have a purpose, it ends up destroying itself. Because, like I mentioned earlier, money is like water. It always has to stay in motion. Whether that motion is through compound interest or whether that motion is you channeling your well of water, which is like your bank account, and you channeling it into different little pockets. Money always has to be in motion. And the only motion can't be spending. That's how you lose it. How do you generate that motion? By having a purpose for every single channel that leaves your bucket or your well. A nervous system that has nothing to protect usually turns inward, and it usually starts manufacturing crisis and problems as its own way to function. And if your only reason to build was to escape where you came from, the moment you escape, your purpose is gone, and your brain is going to recreate that prison just to have something to escape from. Abundance needs a mission larger than money, larger than being wealthy, larger than being prosperous. Or if you're not careful, the money becomes the next big problem that you have to solve, and you don't want to be in that place. Non-negotiable number 4. Let the money sit and watch what happens in your body. So try this thing. Open a separate bank account, put money in it, and don't touch it. Now notice what happens in the days to follow. Are you going to have low-grade anxiety because you feel like this money needs to be doing something? Are you going to be feeling a little anxious because this money is just chilling there sitting? If you are uneasy with leaving money in a place, and a bank account is one place, but there are better places to leave your money. But if you are uneasy with leaving your money and not touching it, that anxiety is your scarcity response meeting stillness. Scarcity and stillness cannot live in the same room. They're like oil and water, because scarcity is something that needs to consume right now. And when it comes across stillness, when it comes across having to wait, it just feels uncomfortable because it has never experienced money that stays. It doesn't know what to do with itself. So it reads surplus, it reads abundance as a problem waiting to happen. And the thing that you need to exercise is this. You need to let that abundance sit, let that cash sit. You need to feel the uncomfortable emotions, feel the anxiety. Do not move that money, do not even spend it. And then guess what? Next month, you're going to check, oh, it's still there. And then the month after that, what a miracle, it's still there. And slowly but surely, your nervous system is going to build a new reference point. And this is not a reference point of affirmations. This is a real reference point where you're not being told that abundance is safe. You are experiencing the safety of abundance, the safety of abundance staying. And this is how the body learns a new story, not from what you think, not from what you say, but from what you live. So the abundance, the prosperity is not a test. You are the test. The version of you that knows who you are without the fight to the top, without the climb to the top. When you're not climbing up that mountain and you arrive at the mountain, who are you? What is that purpose once you are standing at the door of abundance? That version of yourself that has grieved that hunger and released it. That version of you that stops spending to belong, that build a system, an automated system that handles that abundance before it arrives, that lets surplus sit until the body is comfortable with it. Who are you? What is that version of yourself called? What is that version of yourself aiming for once they get to that apex of that mountain? Because most people get to this point as the wrong person. They build towards it as one version of themselves, and they arrive to a place that no longer needs that version and needs a different version of yourself. You need to do the identity work before you get here, or abundance will do it for you. Not a lot of people actually talk about the shadow of abundance. They always talk about how great abundance feels. And yes, abundance feels fantastic, but not a lot of people talk about the shadow that you need to confront when you're on top of the mountain and you have received all of that abundance and you realize, I need to have a totally different identity, because if you don't do that work, it's going to be a very, very expensive lesson.